Thanks for joining us for this first quarter market update. And we figured as we got into the 2023 selling season here, with a lot of things going on, we thought it'd be a good thing to check in now that we've been a quarter through the year and talk about some of the things that are going on in the market, both from the buyer-seller perspective, and really just get into, we're very much boots on the ground with what's happening. We thought it'd be good to share with everybody what we're seeing in the market.
And Mike, if it's true to the word with the spring market, I've spoken to a lot of potential sellers who, I'm going to do something in the spring. If that's the case, then we should see an upswing in listings. But the last 3 years, there really hasn't been a true spring market. It's just been kind of fluid. And the first 3 months of 2023 have been that way with a lack of inventory, misinformation, sellers scared about giving up their rates, where they're going to go, lack of inventory, so on and so forth. As far as the buyers go, they're out there. We have plenty of buyers.
Yeah. Well, let's actually, you bring something up. Let's break that down. So spring market historically here, we would see that kick off sometime between late February to maybe late April, depending on seasonality and how much snow falls on the ground.
Well, the weather has a lot to do with when it actually starts.
Right.
But in the last couple of years, it doesn't seem like it was just fluid. It kept
right.
flowing.
Yeah.
So this year, reaching out, trying to get people to list, sell their homes, thinking about selling their homes, all the typical fears are out there. Where am I going to go? I got a great interest rate. Worried about the economy. Worried about everything they hear nationally on the news, which you need to really check with us and see what's going on a local level.
Yeah.
That's where we come in and we can keep you educated and informed. But it does seem like there are, I know for myself, I have a lot of potential listings coming based on getting ready for the spring.
Do you think people are waiting for kind of this, Easter break week where the kids are off? Do you see yourself kind of stockpiling where people are going to list after that? Or has that come up, I guess, with sellers you've been talking to?
Somewhat, but I think it's just the overall unknown, like a fear that's going on in the world right now of what's going to happen, where am I going to go? I've had some that really had to sell, and they've put it off.
Why did they have to sell?
Well, I have one that's going to be coming on where the woman is like the power of attorney, and there was some factors going on. People were interested, family members. Now it's spring, and she's like, listen, I'm not going to keep maintaining this place. She called me the other night. We're ready to go.
Isn't that? Let me ask you about that. I feel like that happens a lot where we talk with a seller, and they say, "Well, I might have, so and so is interested." What percentage of the time do you think that actually comes to fruition, where the person they think would be interested actually ends up buying that house?
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. Which for me this week, you want to buy the neighbor's house.
Yeah.
And it's human nature, but you want it for X amount.
Right.
You basically want to steal the house. So she tells the neighbor, listen, I'm got an agent. You're going to have to call him.
Yeah.
He's going to put it on for $250. She says the guy's eyes kind of, but he's going on for $260.
Right.
He's still going to get it for $235.
Right.
It's human nature. But, again, that's why having a trusted agent as your advisor to stand up for you and everything. Plus, it takes you out of the mix.
Yeah.
That family-friendly thing where, this is business. At the end of the day, everybody still stays friends, but it's a business deal.
Well, let's not lose track of the fact that right now we have less inventory than we've ever had, historically low, right? So if you're a seller, I had a guy call me yesterday, actually, a past client of mine reached out, and I think it was his father-in-law's house, and it was a two-family. And he was asking, hey, we got a neighbor who's interested. The house isn't that great. The guy lived in there a long time. It's time to move it. We don't want to take care of it. And I was like, well, I look it up. And just from a Google Street View, kind of checking out some comps online and just doing a little bit of online research. I said, he said, the guy wanted to give me $150,000. I was like, $150,000? I said, that thing's $225 all day without even looking at it. No
was
kidding.
Was he wearing a ski mask? Well, come on.
Well, that's why I said, you don't want to do that. I said, this isn't the market, whereas you're a seller in today's market, that's probably, if you're looking, because it's a friend or family member and you just want an easy.
That's different.
But if if you're objective, I said to him, hey, what's your objective? Are you trying to get everything you can out of it? Because you are. let it hit the market and see what the market does with it, because you don't know until it hits.
Well, I've had a couple like that. A couple other agents had nice listings, but the price point was set because maybe the person moved into assisted living, whatever. Basically, they needed to get as much as they could out of the home
Right.
to ensure that the person who owned it had enough on hand to live a comfortable life till they passed on.
Yeah.
And, so that goes into the factor of what the price was set and everything else. And they want to get more, and it was priced accordingly.
Right.
But you brought up a good point, too. I'm getting, hey, listen, I know I got to do a bathroom, or I got to do something in the kitchen, or I got to do this. I think these people definitely need, if it's not us, somebody, have you come in and look at the place, because places that are crisp, clean, and priced right, maybe not updated, are going, and they're going at over asking, So before you get into thinking what it is, and I'm not going to do this till June because I got a guy coming in April, painting, stuff like that. But I'm talking about when you're talking about taking on a construction project or something, give us a call to see if maybe that's not necessary right now.
Yeah, I would say with the way finding a contractor and just, going through that process and the delays and how busy these guys are, that might be a difficult thing. And as you said, if it's more of a cosmetic thing, I feel like that's the advice we're giving people right now. That's worth doing. But if it's a major overhaul or a detailed or heavy lift in terms of it's going to take more than a month or two, might not be the right time to do it.
Well, and you have to have the people that can do it. And they have to, you can't just go through the phone book and call somebody. I mean, yesterday on the Realtor blogs, I saw 3 or 4 different things where realtors stepped in and say, like, there was a small ranch, they were charging them $18,000 for a new roof. She's like, whoa. And then, granted, everything costs more today,
Right.
but be realistic too. And then you got to make sure the quality of the workmanship. I mean, I don't know how many times I go into a place and I wish they had just left it alone.
Right.
Because the cob job they did is kind of, they're thinking they're getting more money. My people go in and want to buy the place, and they got to redo it anyway. So it's.
I like to use the term old nice.
Absolutely.
Right. If you're dealing with an elderly, maybe seller or something to that degree, and the house is nice but it's old, that's almost better than if a guy comes in, redoes it, but maybe either, skews it to one side of the
Right.
design style, and then you got to end up doing it anyways. I'd rather take that old house that is in good shape, do it,
Solid.
know it was taken care of, is solid, and then kind
Do
of
it your way.
Yeah.
And you can set the price down. I mean, I had 2 in South Colony off Sand Creek Road. One sold, which sold for a crazy amount of money, and I got another one coming on. And then when I compare them, there's no doubt I can get that or more for the one I'm going to have.
Right.
But so say, I'm not the year. So say that the first one was like updated in 1990.
Yeah.
And the second one was updated in like 2002. There's a distinct difference, but both in some people's eyes would be like it needs updating.
It's 20 years old. Yeah.
But so the thing is, like, just the difference in the 12 years of updates. I mean, both were solid, clean, like you said, old, but taken care of.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. Like, I feel there's 3 types of homes. You can go into something where someone has lived in it and maintained it the entire time.
Yep.
Or you can go into something and they say, all right, 6 months ago they decided they're going to sell. So they started tweaking and doing things. Then you go into other places, they decided last night at dinner they're selling.
Yeah.
And they went to work this morning with a realtor's putting a sign outside.
Yep.
There's been no preparation. And then you go from there as far as those are the 3 levels of a home and, for your buyers. And then that's where you have to address your strategy as far as, pricing.
Right. Let me ask you this. If I'm a seller right now and I come and you give you a call, say, Jimmy, hey, I want to sell my house. What's your advice on whether you should do it now or wait till a certain different part of the year? What do you tell people?
Well, once I
right now?
find out more about the seller, nobody should be waiting. You know what I mean? I mean, the way the market is right now,
Yeah.
it's as great as it's going to be. Could it get a little better tomorrow? Yeah. Is it going to bottom fall out tomorrow? No, we don't have a crystal ball. But I mean, each day I get up and I'm like, all right, today's a better day than yesterday. I mean, for sellers, like I had one woman call me and they had already made the decision if they have to get an apartment, whatever. They don't care.
Yeah.
They want to downsize to take advantage of this market. If you're leaving the area, if you're downsizing, those are all pros.
Right.
If you're trying to find something you have similar and just want to cash out, that's paper money.
I think it really depends on what people's motivation. I met with a couple yesterday looking to sell their house, and it was in the $600,000 to $800,000 range. And right now, for the school district that they're looking at selling in, there was 2 homes available between 6 and 800 grand. Now, if we go back about 4 years, there may have been 18, 23. There's going to be way more competition. So the conversation I was having with these guys was they're building a house, and they said, should we be doing this now? I said, or do we wait till the fall, or do we wait, till next spring? I said, well, it really depends on what you're comfortable with, because there's variables here involved. Number one, when's the house going to be done? We got to start with that. Number two, if you were to sell and take advantage of the market today, you got to commit to probably a 6 or 12 month rental, which again goes back to the builder. When's that house going to be done? So going into this appointment with them, I don't think they had considered any of this.
Most people don't.
So then when we talked about it and we figured out, okay, well, that builder is going to be at least 12 months out, right? So why don't we do this? We could get your house on the market, get a buyer lined up. The buyers right now just want to be in for school.
Right.
So we could say we'll close July, August, or do an earlier close with a 2-month rent.
That's a good point with the school. As long as you got a committed address, you can register for the school,
right,
and still not be living there yet. I mean, and that's the other thing too. I mean, I find we've had a couple buyers that are under the gun and need to get in quick, but for the most part, buyers are willing to wait and say, okay, I know I got this house locked up. They have to find a house. I have one that I'm trying to convince, we got to find her something. Her house will go in a second. We already sold it once. But the thing is like, they don't want to be under the pressure to try to find a home. Fair. And I said, really, the pressure's minimal. The buyer's just happy they got something locked up. They don't have to keep
They'll
looking.
work with you.
They'll work with you.
Yeah.
And then things will happen.
Yeah.
You tweak one dynamic and then everything. Like your buyer becomes a different buyer. Your seller becomes a different seller. Now they know their house is sold. They can go find something. I mean, it's individual and it's a fluid happening every day.
Yeah.
And,
I the way I think we left things yesterday after talking about all the options that we had, the seller, I think, and we have to talk again later in the week, but I think they were more interested in selling, delay the closing, right? Get through the summer, move out late summer, let the new buyer come in for school, and then, do a 6 or 8 month rental to where their house is ready. You thin your house out. You get rid of stuff you're not going to take with you to your new house anyways because they're downsizing. And then the other thing is you don't have to worry about like lining up closings and hustle and bustle or when's my house going to be done. Right. It takes the pressure off of all that.
Right. And this whole thing, buyer or seller, should be a very positive, enriching experience.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what I strive for. Even when it gets down to the nitty gritty, I try to make it as easy as possible for the buyer or seller because it isn't something to take lightly.
Yeah.
And you don't want them going away with like soured scars. I mean, you want them, hey, I sold my house. You want them to credit you for it, but you also want, in the long run, hey, I sold my house. It was not as bad as I expected. I had a house built. You try to make it as peaceful and like a positive moment in their life because it should be.
Well, especially the guy's been there for 2-3 decades.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, like you were saying, I go back to the woulda, coulda, shoulda, whether it's a buyer or a seller. And I was trying to think as we're talking here, like for the most part, I've had people say, especially buyers, should have did this, should have done that, should have grabbed that house. Yeah. You can't look back. But you know what? If you're it's like you're in a boxing match. And, okay, I'm putting you out there. Well, you got to put your hands up or you're going to get knocked out.
Right.
So that's the way it's got to be. Like, you build the trust with your client, with a buyer or seller, and then you go with it. And that's, to me, is a rewarding feeling because when all of a sudden, hey, they believe in me.
Right.
This is what we're going to do. But then the responsibility comes on me now.
Well, you got to perform.
That, and they completely trust me. So I got to make sure I'm doing what I would do for myself for them.
Right.
And that happens. But as far as we start out with, would you have them wait? Would you do? If the circumstances are right, let's do it.
Right now.
I'll handle it. I'll manage it, and we'll get you to the finish line.
Let's flip the coin here on the buyer side. What are you seeing? Are there any opportunities out there? Because everybody's talking about the low inventory. There's not a lot of houses. what are some wins in the market, or what are things that you would say would be opportunities as far as buyers out there? Because everybody's talking high interest rates. Like, what are you telling your buyers right now with regards to that?
Well, on a local level, I mean, last week we had a 10-year adjustable of 4.25.
Yeah.
So that's not bad. I'm not seeing a lot of
That's great.
problems. It's awesome. I'm not seeing a lot of problems with
4.25 and
10-year adjustable.
And again, I think this is the one thing that people don't understand. They hear the word adjustable and they like freak out because we're used to an adjustable where the thing can fluctuate like a home equity line of credit.
Right.
It's not the case. It should be called a 10-year fixed.
And then
adjust,
Right.
right? Because it's what it is, it's a product where you lock in at that 4.25 for 10 years. You got 10 years to refinance the thing.
won't change.
Or at the end of the 10 years, you take out a 15-year if you want to.
Right.
And if the rates don't change in 10 years, that 15-year rate 10 years from now is probably going to be the same rate you have now.
For 4.25
So
at the 10-year.
whatever, right? So the payment's not going to change that much on a 15-year. Once you consolidate that lower, because you're paying down your principal in 10 years, take that principal payment out, redo it on a 15-year, it's probably not too far off from where you are right now.
Well, no, and if you educate people, I mean, the pandemic rates were absurd. I mean, we didn't have them before the pandemic.
Well, it was a global pandemic. They had to,
Right. And you know what, if things keep going with it, will they ever go back to that? I don't know.
Probably
But they're not going to, you know what I mean? Something's got to give. People have to have houses. People have to have a place to live. I'm not finding pushback from the rates. I'm finding pushback because maybe we went from one municipality to another and the taxes are higher. So also now they realize their buying power went down a little bit. Or, the one thing that's been rewarding is I never have somebody spend more than they want to. You're approved for $600. You want to spend $475. That's where we look.
Yeah.
But I find that on their own, through the process, maybe now they're at 5.25. It's not because I pushed them. It's because they realize. And I have a couple right now that are gradually doing this. Like she said to me the other day, I realize I think we got to go to 325 instead of 290. Okay, yeah. I mean, you're seeing what we can get.
Right.
And then we even can't really get that because there's a bidding war.
Right.
So, but it's naturally on their own. And it's, very rewarding. I mean, I had a couple started out at 275. They went up buying 325. They're ecstatic. And they're never going to sit there and talk and say, Jimmy got us to spend more. It didn't happen that way.
Yeah.
It's just a natural progression that
buyers,
they did on their own.
I feel like that happens all the time. Buyer starts out and say, hey, I'm looking at 350. And then they start looking at a house at 350 and say, no, let's go to 4.
Yep.
For a couple extra bucks, I'd rather get what I want. And then maybe, then they get in a situation where maybe they pay a little bit more. Again, to your point, that's on them. We always, when I'm dealing with the buyers, I always try to say, okay, let's make sure we have the payment in check.
Right.
Because the monthly payment's everything. That's where, if you,
the
down
rates could
payment,
be 12.
right.
But if it fits into $1,800 a month where I want to be, they don't care.
Yeah, because you could always keep your eye on the rate. But again, I think we both, would you say we agree, the best product for the buyers out there in this environment is the 10-1 ARM?
Without a doubt.
Okay.
Without a doubt. For qualified buyers. Something else
Yeah.
you said, like, so, if you are in the market to find a new home and you have something you have to sell,
Yeah.
unless you can go out and buy that home without the current home being involved, you have to get your house ready and we have to list it. Contingent upon you finding something.
Which is happening. You couldn't do that 4 years ago. Now you can do that.
No, and then we had a little...
Because the buyers will wait for it.
we had a little bit of a lull where maybe you could, hey, Mike, I'm going to buy your house. Can you give me a little time? I'll get mine on the market. But it did not happen.
When you say low, tell that, explain
well,
that.
I mean, it looked like, we had like in my opinion, we had a small breathing period where things were not as hectic and frenzied as they were.
So we'll say October through December?
Yeah, maybe the holidays.
All right.
And even then, like, if it was crisp, clean, and ready to go, we were right back. That was like back to the frenzy. And that's where it is now. And it's, in the last 2 weeks, I've noticed it. Even in the, I used to have a problem between like 200 and 3.25.
Yeah.
No inventory, finding stuff, fighting, getting bidding wars. Got to go see it right away. Now I'm finding from like the 4 to 650, it's that. There's a lot of interest. There's people, there's multiple offers.
Right.
There's bidding, and, the agents have to educate their sellers on, the number is not always the best. It's terms and condition and everything else. But that frenzy has now pushed into the upper higher bracket.
Yeah.
Where we were seeing houses sit, and you still may see it sit, but I don't know if it's me, you go, and then all of a sudden there's 20 other people, all of a sudden it's been on for 34 days, and now everybody's got a lot of interest because now they feel desperate, there's nothing out there, and they're re-examining what is there.
I had a buyer the other day ask me, he said, hey, should I wait? Listen, it seems a little crazy out there. Should I wait? The market's going to crash. And we had a discussion around the fact that I said, look, here's what we know about the market, right? We're undersupplied by 3 million homes, right? That's what we need to hit the market for us to have more of a balanced market.
Right.
And it's one of those things that when you have a supply and demand, it's simple economics. When you have a supply and demand issue where you don't have enough homes to supply the buyers out there, and it's not like builders are going to snap their fingers and present, all these spec homes to just give. So that, to me, tells people that we have a 2 to 3 year run to where we're not going to gain 10 and 15, 20% like we did the last couple of years. But if it's a positive equity, right, gain over the next 3 to 5 years, well, then you want to get ahead of that because then you can realize those gains as you go on.
Well, you could buy it for today's price,
right,
and then realize the equity you will have, or you can wait and you're going to buy it at that price and lose out on all that equity.
Right.
And as far as waiting, I mean, there's no, like, I had a couple, they're going to get an apartment because they're getting married and the whole 9 yards, and we just couldn't find anything, and they got exhausted. I get that, but on the same token, I'm still sending them things, and if something pops, we can figure out a way to get out of that lease.
Right.
And you don't want to just dabble. You want to be in the game.
Well,
I mean, we were just talking about it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do an offer this afternoon for a girl from 2020. Many things have happened.
3 years she's been looking.
3 years.
Wow.
We got something, change of employment, step back and forth. I mean,
that's a long time.
And we have another one that's going to close hopefully in the next 6 weeks. It's been a townhouse, new build, 16 months.
Wow.
I mean, so, I didn't even realize about the one until we were just checking it. 2020.
Wow.
3 years looking. And it hasn't
Imagine
been,
what the payments do. Yeah, see, that's where you probably should have been a little more, in hindsight, been a little more aggressive because imagine what the rate would have been different from then till now.
Well, but she had like a change of employment. There was different life factors that changed that.
Right.
And then we couldn't find anything that fit what she needed. We went on a couple places where we looked, and they were like, "Oh, this is great," but it wasn't. I'm like, "We're not in the right school district." Like, I'll show anybody anything because if I can't sell it to you, and someone calls me tomorrow about it, hey, I was just here yesterday. What do you need to know about it?
And you know about it. Right. Well, let's wrap this up here. What would you say? I think that'd be a good thing for us. Check back on a monthly basis just to kind of connect, let people know what's happening out there, what experiences we're having, because that's the thing is we take for granted the daily things that we go through, right?
With people don't know. I take for granted someone bought a house 30 years ago. It's a totally different process.
That's fair.
So I stop and I say, listen, I don't want to be redundant or insulting, but this is the way things go nowadays. Right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
You'll have a new couple and you'll have mom or dad or mother and father-in-law, and, it's not 1980 when this is the way things operated. And, even the market, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And it's changing every day.
Look at how much it changed from, say, November 20th to March 20th, or even November 20th to February. I mean, right. January 20th. It was a
well. I mean, when we were in that frenzy, I mean, you could kind of get an idea. Someone calls you up and say, hey, what do you think my house is worth? I have to go see your house now.
Yeah.
Because comps don't mean anything.
They don't.
They're not. For me, they're not a valid way for me to tell you what. I go in and all of a sudden, your place is phenomenal.
Right.
I have one where, it's continuing. I got to find them something, but I have a house which alone would probably be, high twos.
Yeah.
But then I got $100,000 man cave garage on the property.
Yeah.
That he realizes he's not going to get that back.
You got to get that. Yeah.
But he's going to get something for that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Again, the right client. But there's a house for everyone out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, why don't we do this? With the market changing pretty rapidly here, especially spring market, we're knee deep into that. Let's check back in about a month, and we'll let people know what's happening. And obviously, we can be the resource for anybody, whether it's buying or selling.
Absolutely. I mean, anybody can call us. I mean, I talk to anybody. And I'll help people out. They know that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if something comes up between now and then, we'll do something,
Yeah.
just to keep people informed.
All right. Well, tune back. Thanks for joining us on this show here with the market update for the first quarter. And we'll see you on the next time around.
Don't forget the home field advantage.